welcome you all, basketball degenerates, to another episode of the Pass First, Shoot Later podcast brought to you by the OC Basketball League. I'm your host, Zico Pepic, here with my co-hosts, Michael Van Wyck and Omar Almadine. Omar is going to be a funny one to watch today. Omar, explain what's going on.
Well, actually, yes, it's going to be a funny one. I'm going to have to do half this podcast probably on the treadmill. Marcus Bradley, who has me on a workout plan. I got to get my steps in for the day. So here I am trying to get my remaining steps.
Shout out to Marcus Bradley. That's my homie. That's our homie. He's a sponsor in the league. He is known as the Breathing Vegan. You can find him on Instagram, the Breathing Vegan. He is a Wim Hof certified trainer and also a physical trainer. And he works with me all the time too. Great guy, does great work. Highly recommend him. So we will tag him in this post and see if anybody's interested in working with him as well.
What's up, guys? I'm not trying to get steps in.
We were literally just talking about steps because right now I'm in Europe. My family is from Montenegro, and I visit here often. My wife is from here, and I'm here on some business and also going to fly back with my wife. She's been here for a while now. And in Europe, everybody walks everywhere. Gas is really expensive. A lot of things are closed in town. So you take the car when you need it. Otherwise, you're walking everywhere. And I think like 10,000 steps is just like minimum for everyone here.
And shout out to Zico too. He woke up bright and early on vacation.
Yeah, Zico, what time is it over there?
Right now it is 7 o'clock, so it's not bad. It's a little different here because there's call to prayers. So there's the Muslim call to prayers here, which right now is going off at 6 a.m. And then there's also church bells. Every town here is made a little, pretty much the same way. They always make a town around a water source. So the town I'm in right now, there's a well right in the center of it. And then right outside the well, they always make a mosque and a church. Those are the first things they build. And then they start building a school around that and then the houses around that. So every town is built very similarly. So no matter where you are, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, you're going to start hearing call to prayers, church bells, which is a really cool experience. I think it's really nice to have things like that where it brings multiple cultures, multiple religions together. So you're usually up pretty early around here.
Man, there you go. Omar, you got to say something so people can see you walking.
I'm right here, dude. I haven't passed out, so I'm good. So I'm here.
All that matters is that you don't pass out mid-show.
Exactly. I'll be fine.
If we don't cut to Omar and it's just me and Zico talking nonstop, you guys know why.
No, I'll be fine. It's been a month. This is week 5 on his 90-day program that he started at the beginning of the year. And it's been a challenge, but I've seen results and he's been really helpful. So I do recommend him to anybody who's looking for a healthy lifestyle. This is not just about weight loss. It's also about just a lifestyle, a way of living. And he's been really helpful. I'm down a healthy 10 pounds and I got 80 more to go.
Keep going at it, Omar. We're proud of you.
Nice. You know what doesn't have that long left? NBA trade deadline, 3 days away.
That's right. Today's episode.
That's a good point, Mike.
Yeah. Today's episode will be an NBA trade deadline preview. However, before we get into that, I do want to talk about one thing. I didn't say touch on there, just so you guys know we're avoiding that. I do want to talk about one thing. The All-Stars were just announced. Were there any players you guys were surprised to see snubbed?
Actually, Trae Young.
There's always snubs.
That's his second year, but I think he'll make it in as a reserve. But we've always heard this argument. It's these fans voting for who they like, not necessarily, who deserves to be an All-Star, depending on what your interpretation is of an All-Star.
Well, who did you think should not have been an all-star?
Yeah. Who are you replacing that? Because the reserves have already been listed.
Yeah.
I got to pull up the list again. To be honest with you, I can't. I looked
Right.
at it the other day, but
I
Trey
will
Young being
I will
snubbed
make
2
one
years in a
note.
row.
I will make one note regarding Trae Young. The highest scoring seasons by non-all-stars since 2000. Bradley Beal had 30.5 points per game in 2019, 2020. This
And he
year,
got snubbed.
De'Aaron Fox and Trae Young are both averaging over 27 points a game, and both of them were snubbed.
All right, so I'll read you the list because, and just so everybody knows, they went back to East versus West All-Star games. They're not doing a draft like they always do. There's no team LeBron, team Giannis, whatever it is. It's East versus West. So I'll give you. We're gonna eliminate the starters because those get voted by fans, right? So Tyrese Halliburton.
No. You got to talk about all of them because that was the comment that I made. The fans.
I know I'm going to list them all, but I'm going to say realistically, you're going to replace a reserve because we know the fans vote. So you got Halliburton, Lillard, Tatum, Antetokounmpo, and Embiid. Those are your starters, right? So those are fan voted.
Well, if you ask me, no knock on Dame, but how is Dame a starter for that Milwaukee team? I know they're top 3 in the East, but
Doc gets through with them.
Huh?
I said not after Doc gets through with them, they won't be.
Exactly.
Well, Doc's
right?
actually coaching the Eastern Conference team, which is
I thought
which is bullshit. Excuse my French on the podcast, but that's nonsense.
But then here you go for the reserves. You have Bam Adebayo, Paulo Banchero, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Maxey, and Julius Randle.
which I just don't know who Trey replaces aside from now that Julius Randle's hurt and we're going to be replacing
Well,
him.
Joel's hurt too, so they're going to need another person.
There's going to be 2 guys filled in there. So that's the hard part. It's all those guys are actually on teams that are winning as well. And Trey's on a team that's losing. And when they prioritize winning, which I prefer that they do, I'm not surprised he was left out. Yes, it's a snub, but someone always has to miss, and then they get the opportunity to play. So,
and rumor is right now that Young will replace Randle. So I think he'll get on there. That's still, I mean, if you're looking at it from people voting and players voting and whatever, it's a snub. But if you get in, you get in.
Well, remind me, what's Tyrese Maxey's numbers?
oh, he's killing it, man.
I have to
I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up.
I mean, like I said, there's always some snub here or there, but I think the West is pretty stacked.
Tyrese Maxey's averaging 26.2 points, 3.5 rebounds, 6.4 assists on 45% field goal percentage. So he's
You
right
can say almost
about the same.
The same numbers as Trey Young on a winning team.
Yeah, and he also, to note, he has had Embiid miss a lot of games, and he's still winning. So he's played phenomenally.
But you can't take away from that. See, that's the thing. You can't take away from that Philly team. They have the right pieces that can step up. I mean, at the end of the day,
Omar, look at that Philly team. Look at that Philly team and tell me which pieces are stepping up. Because I don't think you realize past Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, their next best player is
Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris, I guess, but he hasn't played like the next best player. It's been other guys who step up every other night. So,
and that's what makes them a very title contending team is the fact that they have guys that can step up on any given night.
Right, but go look at the Atlanta team. Go look at the Atlanta team. You got Trey, you got DeJounte Murray, you've got Clint Capella, you've got super deep team, man. Like it's not like it's one guy that's playing well for them. They've got a lot of guys who usually should be playing well, and that's why they're so coveted at the trade deadline.
Yeah,
I think.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, because I'm going to switch to the West. So go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to make a general comment whether West or East. I think with the fans voting the top 5 and then the reserves being selected by the coaches, I think if we're just going to make it a fan base thing, let all 12 spots be fan base, and then let the coaches pick the reserves. If somebody's hurt, Or my whole thing is you only get one all-star per team.
No, you can't
I
do that.
wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that because you're gonna put some guys, random guys from like bottom end teams for me. Like, I don't want to go watch. Like, I'm trying to think who's a bottom end team. Like, yeah, Wembanyama would have been cool from the Spurs, but there's teams like I don't want to see an all star from their squad.
But you only get 12. So there's 30
Who's the
teams in the
Houston
league.
Rockets?
So
Well,
six.
Alfredson could have been from the Houston Rockets. I'm trying
Who?
to hold on a
Yeah,
second.
but you still there's
Sengun could have came from the.
He
He's
could have,
putting
yes.
all-star numbers.
Sengun could have. I'm trying to think who else
you
is
just-
like on a
you're
lower
not gonna
end.
do that's never gonna happen because you're eliminating players who happen to be like what would the Warriors do when they drafted and they had Clay and Steph?
Who's representing the Pistons
Cade.
or the Wizards? Yeah, but do you want them in the All-Star game ahead
No,
of
But that's what I'm saying. If they're the bottom three teams, no, you only get 12, right? So Detroit's in the bottom 15. So
yeah,
Detroit won't be even considered.
I like the way they do it, honestly. Let the fans pick the first starting five. You know what? I don't like the fans voting in general because fans pick names as opposed to like Lillard starting kind of shows that. I don't think Lillard should be starting this year. I think there's multiple guys playing better
shouldn't.
now. So fans are gonna make a mistake even in the starting five, and you want them to pick the whole team.
it's I don't know if it's a mistake. I mean, we've said this before. The NBA is mainly entertainment now. That's what the league is geared on.
Right.
You got
Then let the fans pick all 12 if it's entertainment is what I'm getting at.
No, because then you're not going to get a well-rounded team. At the end of the day, the average fan across the entire thing is ridiculous. I mean, look how close Pachulia came that one season to being a starter.
Exactly.
You're going to get again, fans are just you're going to get a bunch of guys that make jokes out of things, and you got to even that out and balance it. But flipping to the West, I think everyone saying the biggest snub is De'Aaron Fox. So on this list, is there anyone you would replace for De'Aaron Fox? And I can think of the one, but let's see what you guys. So starters voted in Luka, SGA, LeBron, Durant, and Joker. So you're not replacing those guys. I mean, I think the fans got that right for the most part. If you're picking them. But then you got Devin Booker, Steph Curry, AD, Anthony Edwards, Paul George, Kawhi, and Karl Anthony Towns. So me personally, I'm replacing Devin Booker. I would rather see De'Aaron Fox than Devin Booker. But I think it's going to be hilarious watching Devin
I'll also
Booker.
take Fox over Paul George or Kawhi.
Not over Kawhi.
Not over Kawhi
Paul George. Over Paul George, I can see that argument. Not over Kawhi. What Kawhi's been doing now that the Clippers are getting it together, and they're what 29-5 or something ridiculous since that losing streak, and that's all Kawhi. Not all Kawhi, obviously.
I wouldn't switch out Kawhi. I think Kawhi, the fact that Kawhi is playing almost every single game and playing the way he is, I would not switch out Kawhi. I could see the argument for Paul George. I could see the argument for Devin Booker. Although personally, I think Devin Booker might be playing a little better than KD this season for that team.
I think it's going to be funny to watch Kevin Booker get assists or looked off from Luka. I think it's going to be amazing.
You really think he's going to do that? I don't think Luka's going to do that. I think Luka likes to have fun in the All-Star game.
Exactly. And what more fun would it be to continue to punk Devin Booker?
Yeah, I don't know if he'll.
But I don't think he'll do that in the All-Star game.
I think he's
Luka's a showboater, so he's gonna want to make fancy passes to a shooter in the corner.
I agree with that.
That'll be Steph. Or will they even put him on the floor? Who's coaching?
The Timberwolves head coach.
Maybe he won't even put him on the floor together.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
So
really quick.
Hey, all I'm gonna say is any All-Star selection is better when the 4 Detroit Pistons made it.
Yeah.
So
and just to cover them all real quick, the other snubs that the internet has listed and other people's thoughts. Rudy Gobert.
No,
No,
Yeah.
no.
I don't think so either. I'm just letting you know what others think. Domantas Sabonis, James
I think
Harden,
yes.
Jamal
Sabonis, yes.
Markkanen, Sengun, and that's Scotty Barnes, which I don't think so. Trey Young obviously is on there.
Scottie Barnes had a really good season.
Porzingis, Jared Allen, and Miles Turner round out the group.
For me, of that list, Sengun and Scotty Barnes from each side would probably be the next up to me. I think both of them are in the conversation of being that next guy to fill in. So,
yeah.
Okay, you guys want to get into this NBA trade deadline preview?
This
We
is
should.
Zico's favorite. Like this,
Yeah,
this is going to be all Zico and Omar. I'll throw in my opinion here and there, but I am not sitting here making trades up in my head, looking at things like you guys do.
Well, you don't have to look at it that way, Mike. For you, I would look at it as right now, which team are you rooting for most? Here's a question. Which team are you? Are you rooting for the Lakers the most because of LeBron and hoping that he gets the supporting cast he needs to win a title?
So realistically, obviously, I think everyone knows I'm a LeBron fan. I'm rooting for LeBron. I also like the Spurs. I think Wemby's great, but they have no chance of doing anything. I would not mind seeing the Clippers win. I've always said that James Harden's style of basketball wouldn't lead to a championship, but they surrounded James Harden with a bunch of dudes who play all the defense, and I think he tries a little more now. And if he's bought into that, I wouldn't mind seeing the Clippers win, and Kawhi Leonard can just add to his
Yeah,
resume.
that's a different question though. What I meant was so like example being like LeBron as constructed, his team is we're not expecting the Lakers to win a title as
No,
constructed, correct?
as
So
constructed, their ceiling is the conference finals.
looking at it differently, are there players that you feel like the Lakers should go after that are going to be on this list that we're going to talk about that could help LeBron potentially win this year to beat out the Clippers and get to the finals? So like that's kind of the way I look at it. You could look at it as I don't want to like figure out potential trades that would work for this or that. But then again, you could also look at it as, how could certain players help this team get over the hump? And is there a player that could help this team get over the hump? Because we all know right now, especially with the Lakers, they're very active in trade talks. They're capable of making a really good deal right now. So, yeah, I think that's the way I'd like you to look at this instead of just up trades. Like what do you think would actually help?
No, and absolutely, like I said, when we go through, but I don't think there's a available person that helps the Lakers get over the hump. I mean, you got to get a lot more. You got to get consistency. So AD, we talked about it on another episode where he's been the healthiest. He's been playing the most games out of all the players in the league, which is crazy. LeBron, come playoff time, is going to be LeBron. He's going to give you. He's going to end up being the best player on their team night in and night out. Maybe AD has a bigger game here or there, but they need, unless they get rid of him, D'Angelo Russell to be more consistent. They can get another scorer that can do what D'Angelo Russell was brought in to do, or what Russell Westbrook, what they thought he was going to do, then yeah, that can help them. But is there a guy available? I don't think getting a bought out Kyle Lowry is going to help you do that. Who's available that's going to be that guy? Zach LaVine's out for the season.
Okay, let's start it off.
I think the Lakers need a Rondo type who can lead the second unit. Somebody that's going to create for the other guys. Because right now the issue with the Lakers is the ball gets stagnant and they don't have a lot of guys that can create their own shot the way they're playing now. Not saying they can't, but the way they're playing.
Okay, let's start it off like this. I'm gonna go through teams who are buyers in this market. I think there's certain teams in particular that need something to get over the hump. I think we have our certain teams that we are looking at that are not gonna make a move, or maybe they make a really small move. But teams like Celtics, they might be looking for some bench depth, but I think they're going to be looking at the buyout market more so than the trade market. And then Denver Nuggets, they're kind of tied with their contracts. If they make a move, it's going to be another small move. It's not like they can make a big move unless they're going to get rid of one of their starting five. I just don't see that happening. The Clippers, I think they're pretty much set. I don't see any more changes coming to that roster. It's rolling. Don't mess with it at this point. That team is set. I think every other team that's playoff bound or potentially playoff bound is going to be a buyer. So the Lakers, the Knicks, the Mavs, the Pacers, I don't think they're done either. 76ers, the Bucks, Thunder, the Kings, the Warriors, the Rockets, and the Pelicans. These are all teams I expect to try to make a trade that could put them in better position to, one, compete for a title, two, at least make sure they make the playoffs. Like the Rockets right now, they want to make the playoffs. They want to build a culture. So they're looking for veterans to help them get into a better position to be able to do that. So I could see them making a move, which they already did make one. They just traded for Steven Adams, which that's one that they're going to build on for next year, have a good backup to help train Sengun in practice and stuff like that. Obviously it doesn't affect this year, but they're the kind of team that's trying to build a culture. And I could see them making more moves like that. Thoughts on any of those teams?
They moved Oladipo, right?
Yeah, who wasn't playing?
Yeah, and neither is Adams. So neither one of those guys. So I think kind of what you said, Steven Adams helps them build like that presence of a veteran leader. I think he can help a lot in that aspect. So even off court stuff, and
Yeah.
just
Unless they're looking to start him at the 5 eventually and have Sengun play the 4.
I don't see that happening because you still have Jabari Smith Jr. Unless you trade Jabari Smith Jr., it's not going to happen. And I think they're going to keep Jabari Smith Jr. If they trade any of them guys, I think it's going to be Jalen Green, which they already did make an offer to the Brooklyn Nets centered around Jalen Green for Mikal Bridges, and they were denied. So I think Jabari Smith Jr. and Sengun are your 4 and 5 for the foreseeable future.
do you think, and I know you mentioned already, but I just want to hit these guys. Do you think OKC or Minnesota tries to make any moves?
Minnesota, if they make a move, which by the way, I will say this. Obviously, one of the guys that has been talked about the most has been DeJounte Murray, as a potential player that could be traded. If I was Minnesota, I love Mike Conley, but he's a little older at this point. If I could trade for anyone, I'd be throwing my name in the hat for DeJounte Murray. I think DeJounte Murray would be phenomenal on that team next to Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns. He's a younger version.
The Spurs Murray, yes, but not the Atlanta Murray. So if he can revert back to how he played under Pop, then yes, I think that would be a great trade.
Which, by the way, Pop is also interested in bringing DeJounte Murray back, which I found really interesting. I think that they're trying to also build a culture there, especially around Wemby. I don't think they like the losing around Wemby. I see that he's getting frustrated because of it. The fact that they were interested in bringing DeJounte back was, I would have liked to see that, to be honest with you. I think DeJounte played very well under Pop, and I think he would fit really well there.
Weren't the Lakers rumored to be trying to get Andre Drummond from the Bulls?
Yes, Andre Drummond is actually also one of the players that he's one of the key names we're gonna talk about. Let's keep going into this. I'm gonna also mention the sellers, because these are the teams I expect more than anybody to try to sell the players they have for assets, whether it be draft picks, younger players, whatever it might be. The Atlanta Hawks, obviously, I think their whole team is available aside from 3 players: Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, and Okongwu. The Toronto Raptors, they still have multiple pieces that are available. Number 1 being Gary Trent, number 2 being Bruce Brown. So their team I could also see making a couple more moves. The Charlotte Hornets, they're looking to make moves. This year's kind of a waste for them since LaMelo Ball is injured for most of it. So PJ Washington's on the block, Mikal Bridges is on the block. Whatever they can do to get a couple more draft picks, I think this team will do. The Washington Wizards, the Jordan Poole project was an epic failure. Kyle Kuzma project hasn't been that stellar. I think if they could get draft picks or pieces that might be able to build with for either of those guys, and also Daniel Gafford, they're going to do it. Chicago Bulls, DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, Andre Drummond. Those are the three guys I expect to get traded. The Utah Jazz, they have multiple pieces that playoff contending teams want. Like right now, I think the hottest name is going to be Kelly Olynyk. I think he's a great pickup for many teams. So I could see the Celtics wanting him back big time. I could also see the Heat wanting him back big time. So he's a big name to keep an eye out on. Portland Trailblazers still have Jeremy Grant, Malcolm Brogdon. Those are two good veteran players that could help a team. The Detroit Pistons, Bogdanovich, Alec Burks. Those are names that are being talked about potentially being moved. But
Well, you skipped one from Utah. There's rumors about Jordan Clarkson wanting to go to New York.
Right. Again, these are just sellers. I know there's multiple pieces, but I'm just listing them as sellers at this point.
Golden State.
Are they sellers or are they buyers? I have them as a buyer.
You know, I don't know. I mean, what do they do?
I think they're buyers. And we'll get into some of those players that I think they're buyers for in just a minute. The last team I have as a seller right now is the Brooklyn Nets. They're kind of in limbo. They're that kind of team where it's not really moving forward. It might be better for them to take a step back, kind of like the way Toronto did. Keep the guys you want to build with, and then remove some of these assets that other teams want, and try and get draft picks for them. Dorian Finney-Smith is another big name right now. A lot of teams want him. They've already turned down a trade that offered 2 first-round picks for them. So keep an eye on the Nets. They're another team that might help a contender, a buyer, make a good move. So those are the sellers to me. And then key names that I want to keep an eye out for. Kyle Kuzma, Jeremy Grant, Bruce Brown, DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, Andre Drummond, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Bojan Bogdanovic, Quentin Grimes, Malcolm Brogdon, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Andrew Wiggins. And Jordan Clarkson. And Kelly Olynyk.
I think if Golden State goes after Spencer Dinwiddie, I think I mentioned it prior, he'll be like a Sean Livingston type for them. I think he would be a great pickup for Golden State.
But can Golden State get enough and get back into form that they can be competitors for a championship?
I think
the way Clay, you think Clay can get it together, start playing like he was, get back into the closing lineup. Steph's obviously playing good. You think Dre can get back into being who he was when they were winning? You think that can happen?
For me, the Golden State Warriors are a team that they've started aging. They still have really good pieces. I think for them at this point, it's more along the lines of balancing the roster a little bit better. And I think part of balancing the roster a little better is possibly bringing Draymond and Clay off the bench. They might not like that. However, they also want to win. And I feel like if they can find a replacement starter that would better fit the team, it would benefit them quite a bit. The fact that they have that Chris Paul contract, the fact that they have Andrew Wiggins, those are players that they could trade for a bigger name. So if they can improve the roster and then be able to bring those guys off the bench, then yeah, I think they can compete. If you're just repairing the roster and replacing certain players and trying to keep that same core going, then no. But Steph is still playing at a level where he's absolutely capable of leading a team to the finals again.
Yeah, Steph is still playing great. Do you think they trade or maybe make a blockbuster move and get rid of a Clay or a Draymond Green?
I think Draymond is probably the first to go if they do make a trade. He's been rumored.
I agree. If anyone goes, I think it's Draymond.
Out of those names, obviously, if they trade a lower level guy, then we wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, we're talking about their core. They're talking about their core three, right? Out of their core three, I think Draymond will be the first to go.
Okay.
I agree with that. I don't know exactly what you're going to get for Draymond at this point. I could see the Detroit Pistons trading for him because it's homegrown talent for them.
Rui Hachimura in a draft pick?
Sorry?
Rui Hachimura in a draft pick?
Oh, you want him with the Lakers?
For Clay?
I'm just saying LeBron likes him.
Yeah, I know LeBron and him are boys, but As
Are
a
you
Lakers
excited?
fan, do
Even
I
though-
want that?
Are you excited to see him in the
For,
league?
Not really.
but
No.
what? But how? But tell me, how does Draymond help the Lakers the way they're constructed?
He's an energy guy. He can help the bench get going. He can run. He can run a point forward if he needs to. He's done it in Golden State. He can run. He doesn't shoot as well as, I mean, he never shot great, and he's not going to spread the floor as much as Rui is. But he's, for his size and where he plays, he's a playmaker. He can make things develop. Now, does he work side by side with AD? No, but you're bringing him off the bench, and he's with his friend LeBron.
I think there's a lot of politics to the NBA, and I think the Warriors would be in a tough spot to trade a player like that to the Lakers. To put LeBron in a position to win another title, which I don't think that helps him win another title. To put LeBron in a position to win another title when you have Steph Curry who's trying to pass LeBron, it's kind of one of those things where you might really upset your superstar if you did something like that, which is why I think if they were to trade him, it's going to be directed to a team that has no effect on them. I think it'd go to an Eastern Conference team. I think you'd go to an Eastern Conference team again, like the Pistons, where they'd probably get like Bogdanovich and another piece back for him. So
What about Draymond to the Spurs?
I mean, do you really think Pop wants Draymond? I don't think
that-
Pop wants Draymond. I just don't. I think he'd fight with him every time down the court. He doesn't want. I don't think Pop wants to deal with guys like that.
Draymond to the Bulls for Drummond and Caruso.
Though I don't know if that matches up salary wise. Draymond's making, I think, close to 30 million. So we have to keep that in mind. Like it'd have to be like Draymond for Caruso. I mean for DeRozan. So see, there's a lot to this. And see, that's one of the names I feel like that I could see Golden State going after. Maybe it's Chris Paul and Moses Moody and a draft pick for DeRozan.
But
And
how does DeRozan help the Warriors?
Yeah, DeRozan helps the Warriors.
well, I actually think he would help the Warriors. But I think that's like one of those pieces where if they were to make that trade, Clay's coming off the bench. Like that was like one of those. I would start DeRozan.
But hold on, but you take shooting off the floor now, right?
You still have Steph Curry on the floor. And you have a guy who also play out of the post, which I think would be really beneficial to that team. If they had a guard who plays out of the post,
Maybe
they'd still be
they
able to
trade
spread that floor.
for
For what?
Clay for DeRozan.
That's possible too. I think
I don't see him trading Clay. Really.
I don't think they're trading Clay. I think Steph and Clay are too good of friends for them to do that.
Yeah, well, even if they weren't, I just don't see them with Clay being there the whole time and doing all that. Yeah, I don't see them trading. And
Yeah.
realistically, I don't see them trading any of those three guys at this point.
I don't either. I really think that the guys they're gonna move is gonna be. I think they're gonna keep Kuminga unless they're getting like DeJounte Murray. I just don't see anyone else they would trade Kuminga for at this point. Yeah, it could have been Siakam. Siakam's off the board at this point. There's no stars they could trade him for. So I think Kuminga's staying. I think the guys you probably end up seeing move is going to be Wiggins, Chris Paul, Moody, and draft picks. So, and when you consider that, there's a lot of salary cap filler there that they could work with and move those guys for. So, yeah, here's the trade that I'm gonna approach it like this. DeRozan is something I could see them making a move for. If I were to predict something I expect to see them do instead, is I could see them trading Andrew Wiggins and Moses Moody to the Portland Trail Blazers for Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant is not the defensive player that Wiggins is. However, he plays with high energy. He could play the 3 and the 4. He'd play really well next to Kuminga. He is multiple years. Actually, I think he's about the same age as Wiggins, but that's like one of those trades where like I could see them doing it. It's similar to Siakam. He'd fit really well there. The way he plays defensively would help this team. He could be the replacement for Draymond Green. So like that's kind of like what I'm envisioning them making a move for. Past that, again, I think Chris Paul, Moses Moody for DeMar DeRozan is a legitimate possibility. And then Bojan Bogdanovic, I think that's a name to keep an eye on for them. I think that they could definitely make a play for him, but they do Chris Paul and Moody for Bogdanovic and possibly Alec Burks. So I think they can improve their roster and make it more competitive. And I think they will. I know they're also interested in Alex Caruso, who I think would be a great fit on that team.
Do you think anyone can make a move that gets everybody thinking, okay, these guys are serious contenders for a championship now?
Of these buyers,
Of any team, do you think any team can make a move? Because like OKC's in first place in the West. They're not a championship team. I know you'll say differently right now. You watch them play a little more than me, but they're a young team. They don't have it all together. Once it comes down to playoff time, I think it's going to get not pushed aside pretty easily, but I think they're going to be overrated, similar to Minnesota last year.
so things to keep an eye on is the way the market's changed with the Zach LaVine situation. Him being hurt for the rest of the season, out for the rest of the season, kind of takes him out of that trade scenario, and him being a legit all-star type player, having him off the board changes a lot. In terms of OKC, I think they need to shore up the big man spot, and find a big man that can either start or come off the bench next to Chet. I think coming off the bench is more ideal for them. Which big man is available? I don't think there's one that's going to help them turn into a title contender this season. So they're still 2 years away, I think, from legitimacy. But the teams that I would keep an eye on that could legit become title contenders, in my eyes, is number one, the Knicks. I don't think they're done. I think the one more trade is coming. I think if DeJounte gets traded anywhere, he might get traded there. The Mavs are also interested in Jeremy Grant. And it won't cost them a lot to get him. You know,
I
the
heard
Williams signing was horrible for them. Say that again, Mike.
I heard the Mavs are trying to get a couple guys. They're talking apparently to the Bucks, trying to move Portis for Grant Williams, and also trying to work in something to get Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, they're definitely playing the field at this point, trying to see what the best option is for them. I think Jeremy Grant or Kyle Kuzma is probably their ideal. Did we lose Omar? We did
Well,
lose him.
hopefully we didn't lose him. Hopefully he just lost connection.
Hopefully lost connection. Nothing happened.
He didn't pass out. We didn't hear from him for a minute.
Yeah, he got a little quiet there. I think he muted his camera when he started huffing and puffing. Here, here he is. Probably went back to his computer.
Yep, there he is. And the other one,
You right there, Omar?
we're
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay,
blink
just
twice.
make sure you didn't pass out.
Blink twice
No,
if you're
good.
okay. Heard the late, and I know we're jumping around here, but the Lakers are interested in Bruce Brown.
Yeah, I think that's a really good pickup if they can get him. I just don't know what it's going to cost them. But Bruce Brown he'd be a good player off the bench to help run that second unit, but it's not something that's going to put them over the top. So I think if the Lakers really want to give themselves a chance to win, they have to go after DeJounte Murray. But reports are that the Hawks don't want D'Angelo Russell. So it'd have to be a 3-team trade where D'Lo goes somewhere else. But they are having conversations, so they're definitely one of the teams that's, in the mix for it. So, yeah, I think the 76ers with Embiid, being out right now, they're saying about 2 months. I think that changes the way they're going to move forward. I was expecting them to make a big blockbuster trade. I don't see a big blockbuster trade happening. Maybe they make a small trade that helps, with depth at this point. So yeah, I don't aside from like the Knicks and Mavs, possibly the Pacers, I don't see any other teams that can make a trade that's going to put them into title contention. So Pacers do have Buddy Hield's expiring contract that they could use to make another really big trade for. will Halliburton, Siakam, and whoever else they get, and Miles Turner be enough to win a title? Still kind of doubting that, but they could definitely make some noise. I don't think the Heat are going to make another trade. I think they're going to wait for the buyout market. The Knicks are the biggest one to me. I said this from the beginning. I kind of see what they're doing from a management standpoint with the way they're building their roster. I actually saw something on I think on Instagram recently that said Knicks culture is the new Heat culture. And I kind of see them doing something like that where they're building a culture and it's working really well for them. So they're the one team I feel like could sneak in somehow. So if they make one more trade. So
The craziest trade made up scenario I've seen, and I think that obviously it's crazy, but I'm going to say it there anyways, just so other people can be on the side of crazy, is the Lakers trading LeBron James to Cleveland for Donovan Mitchell and Paris LeVert. And I don't think LeBron's getting traded.
I don't think LeBron's getting traded either. If he were to get traded, though, I think that he's going one of two places.
Dallas.
Cleveland? No, I don't think he's going to Dallas. I don't think Dallas has enough to trade for him unless they trade Kyrie. So I'm not really a fan of the Luka LeBron combination. I think they both need the ball in their hands a little too much. So I don't think that works ideally. But I think the place that I could see LeBron going is either Cleveland or Golden State. Golden State can trade Wiggins and Kuminga for LeBron. They could even balance the trade out and add Chris Paul for salary cap relief, and the Lakers could trade one more piece in there just to balance the trade out, maybe get another draft pick in it. So I don't see LeBron going anywhere else personally. There's as great as LeBron is, he commands so much. A team would have to change everything to trade for him. Everything. Like they have to rebuild their entire structure because the basketball is going to be played through him. Team is going to be played through him. Which teams are, number one, willing to do that? Number two, capable of, adjusting to that and being successful. And I just don't see very many other teams that would do that. And then also would have the assets to give back to the Lakers that they'd be interested in. And I also, if LeBron goes to Cleveland, I think Donovan Mitchell would end up staying there. I don't think they trade Donovan Mitchell. I think Mitchell, Garland, and Mobley would be off the table. It'd probably be something for like Jared Allen and multiple draft picks, Isaac Okoro, something like that. So you got to think from the business side of the other teams. I don't think they want to give up a bunch for a 40-year-old LeBron.
No, and I don't think LeBron's going anywhere. I think for sure. I think Murray's going to get traded. We talked about Murray. I think he helps a lot of different teams. A lot of people are linking him to Philly. You mentioned it earlier. Philly doesn't really have anyone doing anything outside of Maxey and Embiid, so he would be helpful there once Embiid gets healthy. Will Miles Bridges get traded?
Yeah, I think Miles Bridges could be traded. I think the Charlotte Hornets are another team that wants to try and build a culture. And I think they're going to try to get rid of some of the guys that have possibly been issues for them. They're going to start building around Brandon Miller and LaMelo. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen. I know right now Miles Bridges is linked to the Phoenix Suns. I don't know what the Phoenix Suns have to offer in a trade that's going to be beneficial to them, but I could see him going there. There's one thing I will note in terms of DeJounte Murray. Their coach, Quinn Snyder, has actually asked the team not to trade him. He feels like he could be a core piece that they could build around next to Trae Young, next to Jalen Johnson, and next to Kongwu, which I could actually see DeJounte Murray staying put just because the asking price is so high for him. And because Zach LaVine is off the table, because Siakam has already been traded, because OG Anunoby has already been traded, because James Harden has already been traded, I think that asking price will go up so much right before the deadline that a lot of teams will back off and not make the trade. I think they're going to want multiple first-round picks for him. and they're gonna want a young player back for him, and then filler. So I could see DeJounte Murray staying put, not going anywhere. And if that happens, the asking price actually goes up for all the other guys that I just mentioned. Like Kyle Kuzma's asking price just went up, by the way, which is kind of like a shocker. You think about that and you're like, why? Why would they
Yeah.
want multiple first round draft picks for him? Well, that's because right now, if you look at, the key names that are available, Kyle Kuzma and Jeremy Grant are probably at the top of it. DeMar DeRozan's there, but Kyle Kuzma and Jeremy Grant are probably two of the better players on the list, and everybody wants those combo forwards. Dallas is one of them. So I won't be surprised if DeJounte Murray stays put, and then we see a bunch of trades happen with these other guys. So Marcus Smart is another one of those guys. I don't think they're going to trade him unless somebody comes and gives them multiple first round picks, even though the team's not going anywhere this season. So the fact that Anunoby, Siakam, and Harden were traded so early, I think it definitely played with this. And then obviously Levine getting hurt, Embiid getting hurt, I think it definitely played with this NBA trade deadline to a point of it might not be what we had hoped it was going to be, just because the landscape changed a little bit.
All right. So then another name they haven't talked about because the team's set, they don't need anything, but PJ Tucker's still sitting on the Clippers.
I think he's going to get bought out. I think they're going to wait till
Buyout.
after. I think the buyout market could actually be really interesting. PJ Tucker is going to be one of those guys. I think Kyle Lowry is going to be one of those guys. Gordon Hayward is going to be one of those guys. There's a lot of guys like that.
Moving up. If PJ Tucker's on the buyout, that's I think a done deal.
Still, like, I don't know how much he helps Milwaukee at this point. Like, they have
Yeah,
so many
I like
forwards.
They don't like him.
They what?
It depends on what other trades they make.
Of course, of course. But see, Milwaukee's in this weird boat. Like, they have guys who I don't know who wants Connaughton. Like, that's their biggest trading chip at this point. Who wants Connaughton,
Nobody really.
right? Like, for them, it's
Nobody.
yeah, for them, like the biggest trade that they're offering is Bobby Portis for Grant Williams straight up.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that makes them that much better, but if you get, Grant Williams, do you still need PJ Tucker? Because you still have Jay Crowder on the roster who just got back from, an injury that had held him up for half the season. So I don't know. There's pieces that, there's teams that are in situations where I don't know how much more they could do aside from sign players, and Milwaukee's one of those teams. Boston, I feel, is one of those teams.
All right. What about D'Angelo Russell? Is he getting moved now that he's playing good finally?
So the place that I actually envision D'Angelo Russell getting traded to is going to be back to Brooklyn. I think he was very successful in Brooklyn. I know the team really liked him when he was there. When they made the trade for him at that time, I don't remember who the trade was for when he went to Minnesota. But they did it because they were signing Kyrie and KD, so they needed to clear salary. So I could absolutely see him going back there for one specific reason. Dinwiddie doesn't want to be there. You could visibly see it. You go look at his numbers the last 20 games. He doesn't want to be there. He's not trying. There are reports of him not trying at all. So I could absolutely see possibly if the Lakers are to get a 3-team trade going, Dinwiddie possibly going to Atlanta. DeJounte Murray going to the Lakers and D'Lo heading to Brooklyn. So I think I think there's a legitimate possibility there. I think the one team that's going to want D'Lo is going to be Brooklyn, because they're kind of in that. They're right in the middle, like they don't have enough to compete. Their offense isn't good enough to compete for a title. Yeah, it's they're
But do
the
you
only
think
team I
Brooklyn?
really see.
But do you think Brooklyn really wants him though?
I do, because they don't have a legitimate starting point guard. They've been, Dennis Smith Jr. has been coming off the bench and playing the best for them. So I could absolutely see them going for D'Lo and him playing pretty well next to Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. Although it'd be funny to see him next to Ben Simmons, since they had so much beef back in the day.
And you again, just switching topics, but not really. just looked at this for the first time, and we're talking about trades, and the Knicks obviously made a big trade getting OG. They're 15-2 since that trade. They've
15-3 now. They just lost to the Lakers.
lost. Okay, yeah, yeah, you're right. But
I told you, Mike. I kind of saw it. Like there's kind of teams that you see are putting themselves in this position, and they're one of those teams. There are other teams that are very close to that as well. OKC is one of those teams. I just don't know that there. You have to find the right fit. That's what's most important. And if you're building that culture and you find the right pieces, it's going to bloom. And that's what we're seeing right now with the Knicks. And this is also, by the way, just as a note, with Julius Randle and OG Anunoby missing, I think the last 5-6 games, and they're still winning.
Yeah.
So they have that culture going, and they're going to make one more trade. I don't know. I could see them getting DeJounte Murray. They have the pieces to do it, but I could also see them saying, maybe the price is too high. Let's go for Jordan Clarkson, which
They
would
might
make a player for them.
yeah, they might just sit tight.
Yeah. They're going to
as
make one trade. They're going to trade Evan Fournier. I expect Quentin Grimes to get traded because he's in high regard at this point. So I could absolutely see them trading those two guys. There's been reports that they've talked about a trade with the Utah Jazz for Clarkson and Kelly Olynyk for Evan Fournier, Quentin Grimes, Malachi Flynn, and some other pieces. So I expect them to probably more than anything shore up their bench. I think that's what you expect that team to do, shore up the bench. There's also talk of them trading for Bruce Brown. I'm not crazy about that trade. They already have Josh Hart. I think those two guys are really similar. So I expect them to go look for a backup guard who can score. And Jordan Clarkson fits that bill pretty well.
And then what do you think about the Kings moving Harrison Barnes?
So Kings are in a weird spot. They had a great season last year. Most of it was due to health. They had the least amount of missed games from any team in the league by a large margin. They were very healthy last year. Whereas this year, De'Aaron Fox started the season injured. He's played really well since then, but multiple guys have been out. They're still building that culture. So unless it's a trade that helps continue that culture, I don't see them making a move. I know they could be buyers, but I actually still don't see them making a move. Maybe it'll be a small move to try and continue to build that culture. They wanted Pascal. Maybe they pull a trigger on Jeremy Grant, but I don't know if I want to give up Harrison Barnes for Jeremy Grant right now. Like that veteran presence, I think is really important for Sacramento Kings. So,
but going back to the New York teams, both the Knicks and Brooklyn, we talking about a player that's going to get bought out, who's excelled on the in the Eastern Conferences. That's Kyle Lowry. They both can use a veteran point guard, and I think Brooklyn can use a guy like Lowry.
But if you're Lowry, why would you go to Brooklyn? They're not in a title contention whatsoever. If I'm Kyle Lowry and I get bought out and I'm close to the end of my career, I probably want to go to one of two places. If Toronto wants me back, I'm going there because that's home. He said he wants to finish his career in Toronto. Or two, I'm going to a title contender. I personally would love to see Kyle Lowry go to the Denver Nuggets. I think he'd be a phenomenal fit there as a backup. He doesn't have to play that many minutes. He'd fit really well with that team. He gives them like that tough defensive-minded point guard, which kind of helps because they lost Bruce Brown. And he get the minutes probably that he wants more than anywhere else. So if I were him, I'm going to Denver. The other teams,
yeah, he is this generation's Andre Miller to me.
Right. So like he'd fit really well there. Boston's another possibility for him. Although they do have Peyton Pritchard, and I really like Peyton Pritchard. I don't know if they want to take his minutes away from him. I feel like they need more of like wings or big men as opposed to point guard. And he might even go to Milwaukee and, spell Dame for a little bit. So Kyle Lowry will have options. I just think they're going to be title contending options as opposed to, he might even go to the Clippers, man. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see him think the Clippers are going to win and just go get another ring. So, yeah.
But that's why I also mentioned the Knicks. The Knicks are title contending right now, the way they're playing.
I agree, but I don't think Kyle Lowry is what they're going for. Like they're building a culture. They want age groups, guys who are in similar age groups to the guys they have. I think you got to look at that, you know, from the age range of 24 to 31. Kyle Lowry is a little outside of that. I don't think he fits what they're looking for. For the Knicks, I see them going for someone like Clarkson, Caruso, DeJounte Murray, Kelly Olynyk. Well, Kelly Olynyk's a little older as well, but that'd be a package trail with trade with Jordan Clarkson. So I see them looking for guys who are going to kind of fit that culture so they can continue to build with it. So yeah, I don't know if that's an ideal fit for them. One other name I'm gonna throw out there is actually Daniel Gafford. He's one of those big men who's really serviceable. He's been linked to the New Orleans Pelicans in a trade for Valanciunas. He's an athletic big man who plays hard, he can rebound, plays defense, is a good finisher. He could be another guy that could help potential team with title aspirations. I don't know if Pelicans have enough even with him to be a title contending team, but he's another player that I would really like to see him go to the Thunder. I think that'd be a really good backup big man for Chet, and they could play alongside Chet. So he's a player I expect to get traded as well. Where I just said the Thunder or the Pelicans.
I'm back to then.
Like I said, I don't think he makes some title contenders, but I think that he'd be a really good. It's like a culture fit. You know what I mean? Like it's a guy who kind of fits with the age range of the guys that are there. So
I'm not saying he's a straight up trade, but are you trading Zion for a package that includes Daniel Gafford?
No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're still hanging on to Zion, at least through this year. Zion's tough, man. Like if you trade him, you have to ask for a lot. You have to, right? Just because you gave up so much to get him. You know, you lost Anthony Davis, you changed your whole culture, built it around him. I think they should trade him. But if you're going to trade him, like I said, I feel like if they did trade him, I think they should try and trade him for Trae Young and put themselves in this position to have a point guard who could run that team. And I think that would benefit a lot of the players that they have on the team. But usually don't trade big for small. You know, that's usually a losing situation for most teams that do it. So if you were to trade Zion, where do you think he'd go? Like which team benefits from taking Zion?
Nobody.
So I don't see him.
But that's why I think I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think he's from the close to the DC area, and so
yeah,
I could be
I don't think
mistaken.
they have enough. I don't think they have enough to trade for him, dude. Like it's just the Wizards just don't have enough. Like when you're gonna trade Kuzma and Gafford, like it's just
Ingram don't want Kuzma back on his team.
yeah, I don't think so either.
Who? Ingram?
Yeah.
Would you? I get that, but that's to trading Zion to Washington is probably going to sell seats for them.
Yeah, but I just don't see it fitting for the Pelicans. Like if the Pelicans trade him, they have to trade him for a star. You have to get some sort of a star name back.
Or a whole bunch of draft picks.
Yeah.
So you can go to, doesn't Utah have a ton of draft picks?
They do. I mean, you can put them next to Markkanen and maybe that works, but
Yeah, you're no one's trading Zion. You're not trading Zion.
it's so again, that's such a hard trade to make. Like
you don't trade names like that unless they come out and say, "Hey, I'm not going to
get traded." Yeah. Actually, you know what? One team I could see making the trade would probably be the Brooklyn Nets. They have enough like role playing pieces that might help the Pelicans shed salary in some way and still be competitive. So they're the kind of team that maybe they could put a good enough package together with the draft picks and the players that they want. But still, it just
The Pelicans aren't doing that.
exactly. I just don't see them doing it.
Yeah, you got to put on your business hat and say, I'm going to trade Zion, who everyone's hyped to see, get, 4 dunks in a game, or
Right.
maybe a light windmill for.
Again, the one player like here's a realistic trade that I could see end up seeing happening if you were to trade Zion. Like I'm being serious about this. It's gonna be for Trae Young, and it'll probably be Zion and McCollum for Trae Young and what's the center that they have on that team?
Clint Capella.
Clint Capella.
Yeah.
Yeah, Clint Capella. Trae Young and Clint Capella. And then you're gonna sell your team as being Clint Capella, Herb Jones, Trey Murray, Brandon Ingram, and Clint Capella. And you could sell
Who's
that.
Trey Murray?
Trae Young.
No, Murray is the shooter, the forward.
You talking about Trey Murphy?
Trey Murphy, I'm sorry. Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy.
Oh, I thought you were just confusing the two guards from.
I did. I'm sorry. Yeah, you got me there. But yeah, like that's the only way I see Zion getting traded. I just don't think that that's the trade that's going to happen. I think Zion's staying put.
And the thing is we'll leave it at this: is the Pelicans are not going to get better if Zion is still on that team.
I agree. I don't think they're a title contending team. I think that the best situation for them would be to trade him. I just don't think they're going to trade him just because they're not going to get back what they need. There was a situation that could have happened, but I just don't see happening anymore, where they could have traded him to the Knicks for Julius Randle, which actually probably would have helped both teams had RJ Barrett still been on that team, and you kind of brought those two Duke guys back together. I think that would have helped the Pelicans more than the Knicks had that happened at that point. But that deal's off the table right now. I think Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson are boys. I think they're not going to mess with that combo at all. So, yeah, I don't see him going anywhere.
I think, like you said, and we kind of hit it. I think that the trade deadline is not going to be as spectacular as it was 2 weeks ago when everyone was healthy. I think the buyout market on the beginning of March is going to be much more fun to watch.
It's going to steal the show for this.
Yeah.
Season.
I think the biggest trade is the one that already happened with the Knicks. They're coming out of that. They're playing great. I know we made predictions, but if everybody stays put and nobody makes major moves, could be Clippers Knicks in the finals.
There was an article that just came out about that where a writer wrote that he sees a foreseeable path where the Knicks and Clippers meet in the finals.
There you go.
And part of it was because he also says that the Knicks are not done, that they're still shoring up that bench. And I could actually see that happening. I really could. I feel like both teams, like this is a culture situation where both teams are building their culture, putting themselves in a situation to compete. If health goes the right way for them, just like it went for the Heat, when the Heat got to the finals both times, everything was rolling when it needed to be rolling. So yeah, I could absolutely see that happening. I do want to do this really quick. I listed those key names. I'm going to list them really quick and kind of just mention where I think if they get traded or they don't get traded. And that way we could kind of just plow through this really quick and then make sure we don't miss any players in particular. Kyle Kuzma, I don't think he's going to get traded. I think the fact that, Zach LaVine's off the table, OG Anunoby was traded, Siakam was traded. I think the value for Kuzma is going to go really high right up until the deadline, and their asking price is going to be too high for any team. He's going to stay put. Jeremy Grant, I actually think he's getting traded. I think that the Mavs are probably the number one option for them. The Warriors are another team that could be asking for his services. I think those two teams in particular, I'm going to say Mavs and Warriors are going to be competing for Jeremy Grant. I think he's getting traded. Bruce Brown. This one's probably the toughest one for me. I think he's getting traded, but I think so many teams are interested in him. I have no clue where. I just have no clue where he's going to go because The Knicks.
What's the deadline for players that just recently got traded to get traded again?
So you could get traded again, but the rules are when you get traded, you have to wait a month before you could be packaged in other trades with other players on your same team. So, like example being the Knicks trade for Malachi Flynn, and he's a player that could get moved again. They had to wait a month before they could package him alongside another player, which is why I said the timing of that trade was really important because Malachi Flynn's making about 5 million. Fournier is making about 19 million. That's 25 million they could use to trade for a player. So, but you could still trade a player just one for one. So, like example being, the Knicks could have just traded Malachi Flynn for $5 million trade for someone else that they wanted to. So, Bruce Brown's a tough one. Lakers want him, 76ers want him, Knicks want him, Mavs want him, the Warriors want him, the Rockets want him. I have no clue where he's going to go. I genuinely don't. I know the Bucks want him. I don't think it's feasible for them to make that trade. He costs a little too much for them. So
I think the Warriors
are getting
Warriors would be smart. I think it would be a good smart move for them. Because correct me if I'm wrong, he did get traded to Toronto, didn't he?
Yes, he's in Toronto right now. You could do Chris Paul and
So,
Luka for Bruce Brown.
well, you can also probably ship Wiggins to Canada to be home.
Yeah, but do you want to trade Wiggins for Bruce Brown? Like, I don't know
It
if
doesn't
that's,
have to. No, it's not a straight up deal. So don't get me wrong. It's a package. You would have to package somebody. It'd have to be a package deal, but not straight up.
I don't know if Toronto
But
has enough now to make that deal work. I think they should have done that deal when they had the Siakam trade on the table. I really think the Warriors messed up royally not getting Siakam. I don't like the fit of Siakam in Indiana personally. I don't. I think he's a little too old for that group. I don't think that team is going to contend for a title. So I would have preferred, I think Siakam would have been absolutely perfect in Golden State. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do trade Wiggins for him, but you'd have to get more back. I just don't know what else they'd be getting back for him. Okay. DeMar DeRozan. This is another tough one. He's 34 years old. I definitely could see him helping a team. I think the Knicks would be interested, but I think they'd be interested more in him coming off the bench, which I don't think he wants to do. So if he goes anywhere, I think it's going to be the Lakers or Warriors. I just don't know who else is going to trade for him. I feel like he'd be more of a buyout option if he doesn't get traded. So we'll see, I guess. Alex Caruso, that's a big name. I absolutely see Alex Caruso getting traded. A lot of teams want him. He's like Bruce Brown. A lot of teams want him.
The Bulls said they're not trading him.
I think they're going to get an offer where they have to bite Mike. He's one of those guys that's worth a first round pick, worth trading one of your young pieces for. So I think he's going to get traded. Omar, how do you feel about that?
well, I mean, I'm just he is that type of player that's been rumored around to be moved, but he was also rumored to be with Andre Drummond to the Lakers, and that's another player the Lakers let walk, and now they're trying to bring back. So, I'm not sure. I'm not sure he'll help a lot of teams, but who's really going to give up what they have for him? I mean, what's his trade value?
The Bulls aren't trading him. He's staying.
Mike spoke. The Bulls ain't trading him.
Yep. He stays put.
Moving on, PJ Washington. I think he's going to get traded. I think he's a really good piece. I think he could help a playoff team. He's a good backup big man. He can play the 4, the 5. He plays defense. He rebounds. He's an energy guy. I think multiple teams are going to be after him. I think OKC is going to be interested. I think the Mavs are going to be interested, which actually both teams already are.
I was gonna actually say if they can't get Jeremy Grant, that'd be a hell of a pickup for the Mavs.
Yeah, I think he'd fit really well there. Again, the Grant Williams, I didn't like the Grant Williams signing for the Mavs at all. I didn't get it. I really didn't. I think they need.
I mean, I still don't get it why he's in the league, but that's nor here nor there.
You know what?
Mhm.
He's an energy guy who normally plays defense. He's been horrible on defense for the Mavs, and
And
he's a hot.
he should have just stayed in Boston where he made a name for himself. He fit with that culture. He fit with that team. They trusted him. They liked him. You know, and you got to chase the bread sometimes. I get it, but you know, uh, Grant Williams is. I'm gonna say this, and people probably gonna think I'm crazy, but he's a broke version of PJ Tucker.
Yeah, yeah, broke version,
I
literally
get it.
broke version of him.
Yeah, I don't. I think that's a pretty accurate assessment.
Yeah,
You
Everybody
know,
can.
and so the thing is, if PJ Tucker now is finding, you know, can't find the playtime, Grant Williams is going to fall right in. You know, I know PJ Tucker's older, but he's been on some, contending teams here, and right, he's been key pieces to certain teams over his career. But it's starting to show that he's not fit. He's not a fit anymore. Guys are guys are more athletic. Guys are quicker. You know, before they were able to guard the bigger players, but now the game's getting a little too fast for those type of guys.
okay, moving forward, I mentioned Daniel Gafford. I think he's getting traded too. I think OKC is the ideal fit for him. I think he's gonna end up going there. Um, Not sure what it's gonna cost them, but they have plenty of draft picks to make that work. So I think that's the perfect spot for him. Um, Past him, Quentin Grimes and Evan Fournier, I think those guys are probably getting traded. There's multiple options for the team. Like I said, Clarkson's an option. Bruce Brown's an option. Uh, Malcolm Brogdon is an option for them. So I think the Knicks are going to shore up that bench a little bit and bring some scoring to the team. So I think Quentin Grimes is going to get traded. He's a player. What's that, Mike Omar?
Oh no, nothing.
The camera was focused on you, so they all saw you cutting something out.
No, I'm just trying to. I was just trying to disrupt your thought process. I was
Okay.
just being goofy.
Malcolm Brogdon is the other guy. I think I will say this. The trade I actually think the Warriors end up making will end up being Andrew Wiggins and Chris Paul for Jeremy Grant and Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon is kind of like that Spencer Dinwiddie form, although he's been more injury prone. I think that could be the trade that helps the team compete more this season. I don't know if it puts them in a title contending spot, but I think it benefits both those teams. And Chris Paul will be on that buyout market looking to sign with another team. He'll be competing with Kyle Lowry as a veteran presence the teams will want. Although I think he'll end up signing with the Lakers at that point. Spencer Dinwiddie, another guy who I absolutely could see getting traded. I think he might end up being in a 3-team trade, might end up being an Atlanta Hawk because of it. Um, Andrew Wiggins, it's tough. His defense was so key to them beating the Celtics that year against Tatum. But what I'm seeing from him has just been rough to watch this season. So I think he's getting traded. I think that's their best key piece to trade with. So yeah. I don't know if I mentioned Bogdanovich. Did we mention Bogdanovich?
No, we haven't.
Okay. Uh I think Bogdanovich is probably going to get traded. I think the team that he fits best with will actually end up being Philadelphia. Surprised they didn't make a trade for him sooner. I think he'd fit really well with Philly. To have somebody who's that great of a shooter next to Maxey and Embiid is a great fit. He fits next to Tobias Harris. He can play the 3 or the 4, so they can switch pretty much everything. And he's actually a pretty decent defender, which is surprising for most Europeans. We're usually not.
But with Embiid's injury now having him out, I know. Mike said that meniscus could be anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks, right? But the thing is he's also a bigger dude. He's a little heavier than a lot of the guys in the league. So his recovery could take a little longer, Mike. So the question is how does that affect, you know, Philly's playoff run? And with that being said, is it worth, making a trade right now?
I think Bogdanovich is low cost for them. They have so many guys that are on 1-year contracts. Bogdanovich has 2 years remaining on his deal. I think that that's one of those culture building pieces. So I don't know if it's going to affect them too much. I just think it's one of those moves that they can make. Just in case Embiid, excuse me, just in case Embiid is back, they have somebody that could help him. So I think he's a really good fit in Philly, and I feel like he's going to end up going there. So, Andre Drummond, I think we all expect him to get moved at this point. I think the Lakers obviously want him. The Celtics want him right now too. They've offered draft picks for him. So he's the kind of player that at this point that will help a playoff contending team just because he plays, because he rebounds. I don't know if he plays defense that well, but he rebounds. He's a big body. He can score in the paint. So there's that. And then the last two are Clarkson and Olynyk. I personally can see the Knicks going for that combo. I think Clarkson and Olynyk getting traded, possibly in a 3-team trade for Fournier, Grimes. I could see that happening at this point. So those are the guys I expect to get moved more than any of the other names. I think might be some smaller names that also get moved. Anything else
Yeah.
you guys want to add to that?
No, I just think at the end of the day, I think that even with all the stuff we've talked about and with all the players moving or not moving, even if some of these crazy trades happen, I still think right now it's Clippers, Celtics. Those are your two teams to beat. I know the Knicks are doing good, but I still think they might need to make something to get them up to with a healthy Celtics team. Those are your teams that you're trying to beat. So you got to sign somebody good enough to get your team above and beyond those guys. But
Yeah,
I have
I agree
nothing
with
else
that.
as far as trades. I mean, the trade deadline will come and go before our next episode, so we can recap the trade deadline, see how many things came true. Everybody can like and subscribe so you can get notified when that episode drops, so you can watch us tell you all the things that we said came true. But
Things I was wrong about.
yeah, all those things you need to think about.
No, I said all the things I was wrong about.
No, you're not wrong about them. They just didn't happen.
And some of those trades you're talking about could happen in the off season too. So it's not
Sure.
they're not far fetched. So
No. Yeah, there's going to be
but
teams
this is
that decide to stay put and wait till the draft. So
but I think like Mike said, this is probably the Knicks when the Raptors trade is probably the biggest trade of this season. Typically we see, bigger names getting moved. But I think it's probably going to be a quiet trade deadline, especially with some of the key players getting hurt that were rumored to be moved.
yeah, I expect more smaller trades to be done than anything. Um, yeah, I think maybe the Warriors keep Wiggins, maybe trade Chris Paul. I think
Somebody will get traded. It just won't be Alex Caruso.
I really think that the price tag for Alex Caruso to get traded will be met. That's all I'm saying. Like if the Bulls say this is the only way we'll trade him, some teams are going to be like, okay, I'll do it. So we'll see.
All
I
right.
guess. Omar, you got anybody you could call, or is it too late?
It's probably too late right now. 11:30. Usually we're we make those calls around 10:30.
You started a little late because of me today, so Omar, I'll give you a pass today since I'm in Europe right now and there's a time difference and I know you guys started a little late.
Well, Zico, is there anybody in Europe you can call that's awake right now that you can ask that question to?
We don't even need to do. We can come up with that instead of that. Omar, give me one person that will for sure get traded and one person that will not for sure get traded.
Oh, that's a good. Let's end the show like that. One person for sure will get traded. One person for sure that will not get traded.
And you guys already got mine. Alex Caruso staying put, but Andre Drummond will be out. I know they're on the same
That's
team.
that's a cop out,
Yeah,
Mike. That's the
go for a
easy
bigger
way.
name. Like I keep the Alex Caruso one fine, but let's skip the Drummond one because Drummond makes like 3 million a year, so it's an easy.
All right. I'll find a bigger name that will get traded, but Alex Caruso will not be traded.
Okay, Omar.
I'm going to say Andrew Wiggins does not get traded, and I'm going to say Kyle Kuzma will probably get traded.
Okay, interesting one. Okay, I'm gonna say DeJounte Murray does not get traded. And Jeremy Grant does get traded.
All right, and I'll go big hot take. D'Angelo Russell will get traded.
Okay, D'Angelo Russell will get traded. Caruso won't get traded. Okay. All right,
Okay.
I'll roll with that. I dig it. I think, yeah, I think D'Lo is kind of on a hot seat. I don't think feel bad because he's playing really well, but he did the same thing before the deadline last year, and then
But that's I think that's where I think right now the way D'Angelo's been playing, you could see they're probably showcasing him too. They've kind of let him play freely.
which is
So
why I still feel like he can go back to Brooklyn. So
I guess we'll find out and see.
Yeah,
Until
you get
then,
a ton of
3
messages
days.
this week.
until then, again, shout out to one of our sponsors, Marcus Bradley, the Breathing Vegan, him Hoff himself.
Got his steps in.
I
You
sure
guys get your
did.
11,000 steps in, Omar?
It is 11,556,
Good job,
and I'm
man.
sitting. So mission accomplished for today,
Good job,
and I
man.
survived. See, I didn't pass out. Y'all didn't really hear me huffing and puffing, so I'm getting there.
That's because you
There
muted
you
the
go.
mic.
You. So me and Omar are saying goodnight. Zico's just starting his day, so it's good morning.
Yeah, almost 8:30 a.m. over here. So
There you go.
All right, well,
all right,
Zico, enjoy the rest of your trip,
thank you.
and we'll see you when you get back.
All right, peace.